It was the winter of 2009, and Malchus Mills thought that he had finally found stability. He was living in a cheap but beautiful apartment in a nice area with a nice landlord. But then, one morning, all of that changed. As many dramatic events do, it started with a knock on his front door.
I'm a volunteer with DARE, Direct Action for Rights and Equality. Hi. Hi. We're volunteers with the Tenants and Homeowners Association at DARE, and we're knocking on doors. We saw in the newspaper that a house is in foreclosure.
The activists at his front door told him news he could have never anticipated. Here's Malchus.
The door knockers came and knocked on my door and let me know about the house I was living in being foreclosed on. I was shocked. I was like, what? Really? Damn, they're going to foreclose on my house. Okay, how much time I got before they do it? Can I find a place, you know what I'm saying, in the same area? I mean, there are all kind of things going through your mind. And I'm just a single person. I can imagine a family having to go through this.
But this is not the first time that Malchus has experienced displacement. He first felt forced out of his home community in a very different yet somehow resonant historical context.
At a very young age, I was a Black Panther. When I was in high school, we did demonstrations. That was when the integration really started, and they were closing down black high schools, literally taking people from one neighborhood and busing them clear across town. And yes, I was thoroughly upset. That is a form of displacement. We have been adapting all our lives to white supremacy and external forces that are put on our neighborhoods. And talking about gentrification.
Flash forward to when Malchus lived on Carpenter Street in Providence. His house caught on fire, and inspectors closed down the place immediately, evicting him and all the rest of the tenants.
I was like, well, wait a minute. I said, I know most of the guys in this house. I said, and we really don't have no place to go. We'd be out, you know what I'm saying, in the street. I, unfortunately, had to go to a shelter.
After struggling to survive in limbo, sleeping in homeless shelters and on relatives' couches, Malchus finally received some temporary assistance from the city, which allowed him to land an apartment. The very apartment that the DARE door knockers saw listed for foreclosure in the newspaper not too long after.
My situation was a problem that my landlords had run into. He was trying to get me out. He gave me a 5-day notice, an eviction notice. We were in court back and forth. If the tenants have been paying their rent and the landlord doesn't pay the bank, what can the tenants do about that? That's not their fault. They're doing their part.
And that began his organizing work with DARE. First, he protested at the auction of his own apartment and managed to avoid eviction when a buyer stepped in at the last minute. With DARE's support, he's now the one knocking on doors and speaking at the State House and General Assembly and organizing conferences and protesting gentrification across the state.
When the door knockers from DARE came and invited me to a few meetings, I figured, well, why not? Why not get involved in this? I'm an old activist guy anyways.
Yeah, why don't we do introductions?
My name is Malchus, and I've been a member here for a couple of years. I testified at the Judiciary Committee at the House and at the Senate.
Specifically, Malchus is now focused on challenging and improving the Every Home program, Mayor Lorz's new project to tear down blights and abandoned properties in the city and sell these places to private contractors for renovation and redevelopment. Inevitably, this will cause gentrification, displacing local low-income residents, uprooting Providence's communities of color.
We would like to see homeowners here in the state of Rhode Island get homes first, or have at least first crack at it, is that somebody from out of town will come in, they'll pay a bunch of money, and then they'll start raising the rents. And that's how it starts. You know what I'm saying? One house gets redone, That rent goes up, another house gets redone, that rent goes up. Residents of that neighborhood would be financially forced out. We want the residents that are in these neighborhoods be able to stay in their neighborhoods, and that's what being a community is all about.
But why is that important, you might ask? Why fight gentrification? Well, when people are forced to move, their lives become more unstable. They're driven deeper into hardship. Families end up in areas with more crime and worse housing conditions. People don't just lose their homes, they lose their neighborhoods, their schools, their connections, their roots. Now Malchus, a disabled vet and retired cook, finds his meaning through activism, a meaning both personal and political.
It was after I got hurt. I got in a car accident. I couldn't work, and I really wasn't that mobile. I just wanted a chance to be a watchdog. I don't want to run for office. I don't want to be famous. I just want to go to a community and have that community speak for itself. And that's what DARE does. For me to be with this organization, especially with the Tenants and Homeowners Association, I'm helping the community come to life. I'm helping bring voice to scream and moan and groan to demand what they want and what they need.